If your parents locked your disgusting, deformed, spider-legged big sister in the walls of your house, unsuccessfully tried to gaslight you into believing it's just rats, and refused to elaborate further, what would you do? Let's break down how to beat the deformed spider-girl in Cobweb. I gotta be honest, guys. I'm kinda sick of recapping meaningless, contrived subplots that usually result in me harping on the same repetitive, tired tropes, lazily written to drum up conflict. So much of these movies basically distills down to a handful of basic no-nos. Don't do the obvious dangerous thing. That evil island, all the locals are too scared to take you and your BFFs to. Yeah, don't go there. There's probably 1,000 other surf spots you could snap a photo shoot at that don't cost $5,000 to bribe a traumatized, drunken sailor into ferrying your naive to. A father-son coming-of-age ritual hunt, a few days hike into the Badlands during a zombie apocalypse plagued by hordes of alphas and sprinters who are so lethal, entire squads of trained soldiers with machine guns are getting massacred. Let's go! Yeah, don't do that. Clasping an embalmed mummy hand and inviting dead spirits to puppet your body, knowing full well it's for real.
Oh my god.
Don't do that. If you're gonna do the obvious dangerous thing, get back up. There's this handy 3-number line that you can call that dispatches armed men trained to handle dangerous situations for you. Use it. At least text your friends or FaceTime your mom. And for God's sake, don't be needlessly cryptic in your sit rep.
Sarah, it's not a myth. The demons, they exist.
But what are you talking about?
That island took my best friends from me, Sarah, before my very eyes.
Years passed on that island far, far away. I lost a part of myself. Bad juju curses those lands and sicked spooky ghosts on me. Must have been because I stole an abandoned pack of nerds rope. Like, what the f are you talking about? Translation: you and 2 buddies boated to the island. An indigenous tribe of troglodytes physically assaulted you and murdered your friends while you narrowly escaped with your life. Okay, cool. That sounds totally plausible, and now I'm satisfactorily convinced it's truly a harmful location to go to. If you can't get backup, or the boys in blue to do your tax-paid dirty work, obtain a weapon. 67% of the time, the pro tag can't even be bothered to pinch a car key between their index and middle finger. Nerds, ever caught yourself reaching for a bad habit without even thinking about it? Stress, boredom, peer pressure, doesn't matter. The hand just moves. Fume, the sponsor of today's video, offers a simple, healthy, enjoyable way to break that bad habit while still having something satisfying to reach for. Fume is a flavored air device, completely guilt-free because there's no nicotine, no smoke, no carcinogens, no sticky, sugary soda. Just your choice of one of their tons of flavors, mixed with O2. My current favorite is orange vanilla. The Fume device really feels premium, with real wood materials and a nice weight, solid metal, and it's got a satisfying mechanical twisting mechanism that you can play with. Fidgeting gets a bad rap, like it's something bad. It has an evolutionary function. Our ancient caveman ancestors fidgeted. Micro movements kept their blood flowing, muscles active, joints lubricated, and awareness engaged. Fidgeting kept their body out of stasis and ready to survive a rogue saber-tooth or short-faced bear attack. Our nervous system is built for movement, but movement can be a problem if instead of reaching for a spear, you reach for a bad habit. It's not always socially acceptable to start swinging a war club, so instead, grab your Fume to quench your primal desire for micro movement. Go to tryfume.com/nerdexplains or scan the QR code and use code NERDEXPLAINS to get your free Fume topper when you order your journey pack today. Thanks to Fume for sponsoring this video. If you do manage to make a friend, like Justine and Josh Brolin did in Weapons, don't intentionally split up. Divide and conquer is one of the most well-known military strategies for a reason. It's absurdly effective. is a miracle Justine didn't take a kitchen knife to the aorta after Josh ran off to go play Duck Duck Goose in a basement with a witch. I figure I'll try out a new format where I cut straight to the actually interesting core conflict, how the characters handled it, and then provide my expert strategic armchair analysis describing how everyone's wrong and some guy on the internet is right, which I think you'll appreciate. With less time spent gagging out the words, Billy should call 911 instead of moonwalking backwards into the crack house. With the barrel of a SIG P320 tickling my uvula, means I can focus my mind on the big, overarching, out-of-the-box strats to better handle the main conflict of the movie. Less time recapping how sad little Peter was that his pumpkin got smashed by the meanie at school means I can hopefully cover more movies and don't have to deal with as much, frankly, downright oppressive copyright issues. I can easily revert to the normal format, so just let me know. Alright, let's crank. Mark and Carol were once a couple of lovebirds, anxiously anticipating the birth of their new daughter. You can imagine their horror when this thing popped out. Instead of punting it off their local apothecary, they tried to be good parents in the ugly face of it all. And I mean tried. For 8 long years, Sarah was allowed to grow, free to walk around inside the confines of their house, kept locked inside because of how embarrassing it'd be to take her on a picnic in the park. I mean, can you imagine what strangers would say? Sarah's neglect festered, reaching a breaking point on one fateful Halloween night. We don't know exactly what happened. All we know is that a little trick-or-treater girl came to their door and was murdered either by Mark and Carol or by Sarah. Afterwards, Mark and Carol secretly buried her body under their backyard pumpkin patch and locked Sarah inside the walls of their house. In what I consider to be the craziest aspect of the movie, Mark and Carol rolled the genetic dice again, putting another bun in her oven. I'm not gonna say that they rolled 6s, but at least their newborn son didn't look like a total freak.
Today on the Mari Povich Show, we bring back some of our favorite disfigured people and introduce you to some new ones.
For another 8 long years, Peter grew up in this same cold household while Sarah was rotting away in the crawl spaces. For 8 years, there wasn't so much as a peep from the girl on the wall, until one October night. She began whispering pleas for help through the wall to Peter. Daddy! Thinking it was just a nightmare, he'd rush to tell his parents, who, upon hearing that their gross daughter, who they locked in the walls of the house, is actively asking Peter to assist her escape, weakly attempted to gaslight him into believing it was just his overactive imagination. Night after night after night, Sarah would tell Peter how evil and dangerous their parents are, how he needs to kill them and help her escape. Peter would initially complain to his parents, then slowly start to believe the girl on the wall more and more, as Mark and Carol became increasingly frustrated with Peter bringing up the creature that they spawned, while simultaneously doing all about it. Sarah would go on to tell Peter verbatim, "It was Halloween before they locked me in the wall. A trick-or-treater came to the door. I asked her for help, and she saw me. They killed her, Peter." I don't want to end up like that girl. Peter, understandably believing her lies about his abusive, controlling, downright terrifying parents. And after digging up the trick-or-treater's body in the backyard, which Sarah had told him about, he dumps a heap and a spoonful of rat poison into their porridge.
God, I'm gonna crap my pants.
Mark and Carol both proceed to literally puke their guts out minutes later. As they writhed on the floor, Peter went upstairs and unlocked the secret door in his parents' room, the one that they had stuffed their daughter through to seal her inside the walls. Turns out, Mark and Carol had good reasons to keep this abomination locked up. Sarah's not some innocent little victim. She's somehow, through the power of parental abuse, developed into an arachnid, a off one too. Around this time, a class bully and his cousins came seeking revenge on Peter for shoving him down a flight of stairs and breaking his leg, in retaliation for smashing his pumpkin. Sarah effortlessly slaughters all of them. Alright, so how does Peter stop this monster that he's unleashed? He doesn't. Peter's overly empathetic substitute teacher, Miss Divine, comes by for a welfare check and just beats on Sarah with a big stick. Peter and Miss Divine tag team the four-legged freak, ultimately knocking it back down into a dungeon hole under their basement floor, locking her under a heavy steel grate. The movie ends with Sarah left alive while threatening them both. The movie's resolution is basically for Peter to do what his parents rationally should have done a long time ago. And by a long time ago, I mean an abortion. Surely this level of deformity and genetic abnormality would have spiked an early detection system like an ultrasound or genetic testing or fetal MRI scans, none of which are exorbitantly expensive, at least not compared to the fallout of having to lock your Little Miss Agent Orange in the walls. Mark and Carol seem pretty intelligent and put together. I'd imagine this whole ordeal was hard on their once prosperous careers, and the P&L looked quite a bit different a decade and a half ago. Early terminating their fetal stage daughter for having a Joker thing going on would have been a whole hell of a lot less hassle than all this. The good news is, even if they didn't have the cash for proper medical diagnostics, it didn't show up in the scans because the baby was hiding its ugly face in Carol's uterine wall, or they didn't have the cojones to crank on the suck-vac. Infants stop breathing in their cribs all the time, especially God's miscreations. No happy accidents here. Gotta hand it to Mark and Carol, real troopers for giving Sarah the old college try. But when Sarah slaughtered that trick-or-treater girl for making fun of her, that grave that they dug should have been for two. They had a prime opportunity for a fresh start, a clean slate before having Peter. I can't for the life of me understand why they shoved her into the walls through that little door behind the Grand Master clock in their bedroom, when they have a perfectly good basement. More than that, they have a dungeon cell under their basement. The good thing about a basement with concrete walls is the freak can't roam around the entirety of the house. Carol would have to be feeding her on the daily, which means she has to have some idea as to how strong or big Sarah's becoming. If Sarah killed that trick-or-treater, she'd have to have been around the same age as Peter, like 8 or 9 years old. And since according to both his parents and Sarah, this murder occurred before he was born, that puts Sarah at around 16 to 18-ish years old. Definitely strong enough to break a hole in the wall and escape, and definitely mentally capable enough to cast a web of lies to Peter. You see what I did there?
What have we got here? Comedian, private joker.
It should have been abundantly obvious that with Sarah living inside the walls, their next-born son, Peter, would eventually find out about her. The day is going to come when Sarah traverses the crawlspace to his room once he's old enough to help her, which is why it's perplexing to me that they were so caught off guard by Peter's repeated, fervorous insistence that there is a girl in the wall talking to him. Obviously, that's their still living daughter Sarah trying to get Peter to help her escape. What's even more perplexing is that instead of dealing with the root of the problem, aka Sarah, they get all frazzled, take their frustrations out on Peter, and ignore the developing situation, thus allowing it to fester uncontrollably. Peter, though young, should have been more skeptical of Sarah. Sarah was clearly feeding Peter bullshit when she told him that on that Halloween night, she simply asked the neighbor girl for help, and Mark and Carol killed her for it. Murdering a trick-or-treater girl just because she saw Sarah doesn't make any sense. Throughout the entire movie, Mark and Carol have been experts at covering up their abuse of Peter without resorting to violence. Like when Peter's substitute teacher stopped by multiple times, with significantly more evidence of their mistreatment of Peter, and whose word would have been taken far more seriously by the police. Mark could have easily buried a hammer in her skull and stuffed every pumpkin with a little piece of her, but they didn't. Like the 5 Ds of parental abuse, they denied, deflected, dismissed, distracted, and denied. If a trick-or-treater came to their door, Mark and Carol would be standing there right at the door as they'd be the ones to open it. If then Sarah ran over and gasped, "Help me" to the neighbor girl, it makes far more sense that Mark and Carol would play it off as a Halloween gag. Shove a handful of candy in her face and send her on her way. Who's gonna take the little girl's claims seriously? Oh, you saw something spooky at their house on Halloween? Yeah, duh, it's Halloween. Yanking the girl inside and murdering her would raise far more problems that they are rational enough to avoid. Killing the girl would put them as priority suspects. All the cops would have to do is go down the line, asking each family if the little girl came to their door trick-or-treating, which would establish a direction of travel that mysteriously stopped at Mark and Carol's house. While Sarah was right in that there was a skeleton buried in their backyard, that doesn't mean her story is true. It's more likely that Mark and Carol opened the door, Sarah crept over too, and when the trick-or-treater giggled, "That's a scary monster mask you're wearing," Sarah went full Victoria Hayes on her. After which, her parents covered for her and buried the girl in the backyard, which they did a terrible job at, by the way. The skeleton must have only been covered by like 3 inches of topsoil. One bad storm could have washed that thin layer of dirt away. It's the first place the detectives would check if they suspected your involvement in her disappearance, and your backyard is too accessible by literally anyone. Some neighbor kids could hop the fence trying to steal your pumpkins and come across the corpse. I think a fitting punishment for Sarah would have been to lock her in the basement dungeon alongside the neighbor girl's body that she killed. Alright, maybe that's a little too far, but yeah, the point is, the weird girl in the wall cannot be implicitly trusted because she's ostensibly a victim. The safest move here is for Peter to save himself. Run away to Miss Devine's, have the cops tear the place apart and see what they find. God damn it, see what I mean? Feeding his parents rat poison was a bold move, but might have been his only since they kept the house locked up tight. It's plausible that with enough zinc phosphide fast-acting rodenticide ingested, his parents could drop dead within minutes. Not as fast as in the movie, but fast enough that they'd still need to drop everything that they were doing and get to the nearest hospital ASAP, thus giving Peter the opportunity that he needed. Once Pete and Devine locked her up, I see absolutely zero reason to allow Sarah to live, especially after her little spiel.
Do you really think this is gonna keep me down here every night when you lie in bed? You wonder if you lock the door, every tap in the wall, you'll think of me.
Yeah, you're right. I would sleep a lot better if you were nothing but ashes. I should probably just kill you. Thanks. As for Sarah, the burning question that I have is, why are you crawling upside down? You got locked in a crawl space, not bitten by a genetically modified Black Widow. Even then, you don't see Spider-Man skittering around like the Exorcist. If you need to crawl right side up like a normal person. It's easier. I don't know, maybe she was born with inverted joints too. Her entire plan seems underdeveloped, much like herself. What was the long-term play here? Yeah, living in the wall sucks, but you're not crawling around upside down through the aisles at Whole Foods. Maybe right side up, but that's pushing it. Nor are you paying any bills. Clearly. Face it, you need Mark and Carol to survive. You need them, because deep down, you're still their daughter, and they continuously refuse to stomp you out despite having to cover up your murder of the neighbor girl and general ungratefulness. Show a little gratitude, respect, and maybe they'll slip a People's Magazine through the cracks for you. If you're so intent on busting out, then just bust out. You're strong enough to massacre an armed group of military-age males, but can't seem to claw out more than a peephole through the drywall in Peter's room. Speaking of which, why not create the hole behind his bed frame? You wouldn't have to speak as loudly, and there wouldn't be an obvious hole in the wall that your parents could find. This chick needs to take some tips from David. Ultimately, had Mark taken Carol down to their local Planned Parenthood service center, their youngling wouldn't have exacted her decade-long revenge plot that comically culminated in her getting bopped back down the water spout by his elementary school substitute teacher. For that reason, I think the Spider-Girl in Cobweb was beaten. Moral of the story, half measures are costly.